I randomly recall this memory at times. I'm so glad that my parents taught us not to trust strangers. I'm even more thankful for my sister, who actually listened. Back in the 90s, my two siblings and I were walking from our house towards the bus stop to go to our school. For context, I was 7, my brother was 8, and my older sister was almost 11. It was a foggy morning as I remember it, and the walk to school was almost too quiet. We were the only ones in the line of sight. We were a few streets away from the bus stop when a small white sedan pulled up next to us, slowly matching our pace. We looked over, slightly confused and curious, and a white woman with long curly brown hair in the driver's seat. She was staring directly at us. She was probably around 35 or 40 years old, from the looks of her. This continued for a few seconds before she rolled down her window and said, "Hey kids, heading to school?" She had this weird smile and eyes that looked through us. We nodded, as it was obvious with our backpacks and all. She coaxed us to come closer with a wave. "Why don't you three hop in and I can take you all to school?" Me, of course, being 7 and lazy, was all about the free ride. "Sure," I said, smiling. My sister grabbed my arm tightly, so tightly that it hurt. At this point, she pipes up and says no thank you, rather sternly. The woman's smile seemed to fade and then reappear in a fraction of a second. "It's really fine. You don't have to walk. I can take you quickly," she said, trying to sound kind. That's when I felt the hairs on my neck begin to stand. "No," my sister said, even more sternly. My brother looked scared, and I and him were both confused and alarmed at his facial expressions. The woman then turned the wheel of the car and pulled closer to the curb, closer towards us. We all stopped in our tracks, out of fear. "Get in the car," she said, as she halted the vehicle. Her smile vanished and was replaced by a tooty snare. She was close enough that I could see her dark brown pits for eyes. I swear the glare at us was pure evil. That was it. My sister picked me up and yelled to my brother to run. I don't know how, but all of a sudden, she had a hook-like strength. She and my brother started sprinting as fast as we could down the sidewalk. I clutched my sister tightly, screaming, then almost fell twice in the process, but thankfully the car never turned around to pursue us. Instead, it sped forward and turned down the adjacent street. We didn't stop running until we made it home. We locked the door and all of us sat there sobbing. But my mother and father were working, so we couldn't contact them until they came home. While we were all aware where our parents worked, we didn't have the phone numbers or know how to reach them. That's basically it. If it weren't for my sister, I've no doubt that I or we would have been kidnapped, and from that point, who knows what would have happened to us. Case in point, teach your kids to never trust strangers. I know our parents taught us the lesson. Apparently, I didn't listen. I was visiting San Diego for a job interview and staying at my favourite hotel in Sorrento Mesa. For a background, I'm a 40-year-old man. I'm a pretty big guy, but to put it into terms, I'm over 6 feet tall and I was a former club bouncer. Now on to the weirdness. On my third night at the hotel, I was up pretty late after hanging out with some old friends after my interviews. I got back to the hotel around 2 a.m. with some sunny donuts. After eating a few and drinking a few more and watching some South Park, I decided to have a smoke before heading to bed. This made it now about 3 a.m. I head downstairs and walk out the front door to the smoking area. It was by the fountain, but there's another couple who were also staying at the hotel, already there. I didn't want to impose on them, so I decided to just walk around the outside parts of the hotel while I smoked. I walked around the pool, the barbecue area and the basketball courts, and then started back to the side door. But as I started back towards my hotel room, a black sedan drove up alongside me and stopped. The window rolled down and this tiny Asian woman asked if I knew how to get out of the parking lot and back to the street. Now, from where we were when she asked me, we were no more than 150 feet from the street in a straight right line in front of her, so I thought she was drunk or maybe just blind. So I politely said yeah, just keep going straight, then turn left at the tree. She then asked me if I could get in the car and show her. Now again, I'm a big-hearted guy, and this woman was tiny. She looked very like a Walmart alley wall. There's absolutely no intimidation factor, but for some reason I instantly felt uneasy. The street was literally right in front of her. She could see the road, and I was sure of it. Also, the windows were all tinted, far more than they usually would be. I honestly couldn't tell if someone else might have been in the car with her. I used the smoking as an excuse not to get into the car, but she said that she didn't mind and gave me a very creepy smile. I politely declined and again pointed out that the road was right there, so I'd just be walking back in 5 seconds anyway. She asked again if I could get in and show her. This was feeling like a weird, kind of creepy ice cream truck situation. I mean, guys, how often does a decently looking woman just drive up and ask you to get into her car at 3 o'clock in the morning in a hotel parking lot? How often does anyone ask a big bearded guy just to hop into the car under these circumstances? Nothing about this felt right, so again I politely declined. As I finished my smoke and was luckily already standing right at the hotel side door when all this began, so I just headed back in. The woman then drove off as she rolled up the window, right exactly to the exit she had just asked me to show her how to get to. I told the front desk about this and they said they would keep an eye out, but I'm pretty sure that nothing else was ever done or came of this. It's just one of those things that really makes me wonder, what the hell was she doing? I was scrolling through old posts and one reminded me of this story that happened about a decade ago. At the time my kids and I were living in a little house on the corner of my street. Occasionally I would see a drifter wandering in the area. He wasn't bothering anyone and the house was at a very busy thoroughfare, so I never quite thought much of it. He seemed to be minding his business, so I minded mine. One day, while I was hanging out on the front porch with the kiddos, 5 and 1 at the time, he came up to the edge of my walkway but didn't actually set foot on my property, asking if I had some food or water. It was summertime in Florida, and I'm not heartless, so I told him to wait there and give me a minute. I take the kids inside with me, grab a few bottles of water, make a few sandwiches and throw some single serving snacks in a bag. I go back outside with the kids, give to him and he thanks me before walking off and leaving. Every week or so he'd come by and me or my babysitter, if I was at work, would give him some water bottles and a little bit of food. He was always polite, always said thank you and immediately moved it along. After about a month of this, I let a friend who was down on his luck stay with me since I had the extra space. The friend that I'm talking about is about 6 feet tall and maybe 250 pounds. Well, I got home from work one evening and my friend was sitting waiting for me on the porch and he looked absolutely agitated. Apparently the drifter had been by again, but this time he'd taken up the courage to walk all the way onto my property, up the stairs and knock on the door. This was a stark contrast from the sidewalk front porch relationship that we had up to that point. Upon the front door swinging open, it was rather obvious that the drifter was surprised to see my large friend answer the door and not me. He immediately said something along the lines of, "I thought it was just her and the kids that were living here," and started to act all antsy about this. At this point, my confused friend looked down and happened to see that the man was holding something in his right hand. He could only see the tip of it, but it looked very much like a knife. Wham! He shoved the dude off my porch and told him that if he ever saw him again, He would knock 3 blocks of shite out of him, and he would break both of his arms. Once the drifter had regained his balance and his wits, he quickly sidled off down the road until my friend could no longer see him in the distance. My kid's father, we were splitties at the time and were living separately, was livid when I told him what had happened. He worked for a security systems company and immediately set up an appointment to have a security system installed in my house. After that, he even paid the monthly fee himself. He also absolutely hated this particular friend of mine who was staying with us, but thanked him profusely for looking out for me and the kids. All in all, I was upset and scared, but also sad. I had this man, fed him for well over a month at this point. Thank God I've never seen that man to this day after that. Thankfully. Thanks a million to everyone who likes, subscribes and comments on my videos. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy these stories or my clip videos, please subscribe. Thanks a million.